Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Adam Oster. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Mashable. I'm really excited for this next panel. It's called Thinking Beyond the App. You know, this morning Pete talked about some of the trends that inform the new design that's launching on Tuesday for Mashable. Biggest trends being mobile, which has become 1/3 of our audience, grown about 200% in the last few years. So we have this panel today where we're talking with three other publishers, three companies, I should say, that have really embraced a mobile-first strategy. So we're going to dig into what that means and everything from user experience to monetization. So introducing folks, this is Rob Grimshaw. He's Managing Director of FT.com, where he's responsible for the website's commercial performance and overall strategy. In the middle, we have Bonita Stewart, who's Vice President of Partner Solutions for the Americas at Google. In this role, she works with partners across all verticals to monetize their assets and grow their business with Google products, including ad serving technology, private exchanges, video, mobile, and social. And all the way at the end, we have Larry Chevres, who is CTO of New York Media, where he oversees all technology for the company's digital business, which really includes a laundry list of properties: New York Mag, The Cut, Vulture, a lot of properties across digital. So to get things started, we've heard a lot about mobile-first strategy. I think every publisher is saying that they're mobile-first. I don't think anyone's saying they're print-first anymore. But what does that mean at your company, and how is it guiding day-to-day decision-making? What is it beyond a buzzword?
To really do this properly, it means putting everything behind it. And I think a lot of publishers are talking in buzzwords rather than genuinely doing what they need to do to be prepared for digital. I mean, certainly the perception that I get is that many publishers are still putting 60, 70% of their effort, their organizational effort, into producing their print publications, and then maybe there's like 20% going into doing their desktop site, and then there's like 5 or 10% left over, which they're devoting to mobile, and that's mobile first. I think what we need to be looking to as publishers are the commitments that some of the technology companies are making to mobile. If you look at the billions that are being invested by the Amazons, the Googles, the Apples of this world, that really tells you where the world is going, and it also tells you how much and how quickly you need to respond to this. The reality is, everybody is carrying these mobile devices around. They are going to be the main distribution channel for news in a very short space of time. And to be mobile first, what that means is actually moving big chunks of your business and of your organizational effort around presenting and creating your news onto a mobile platform and all the advertising stuff that goes with it. Now we're trying to do that very rapidly at the FT. We have great mobile apps across a number of channels, and we're trying to actually put some real substance behind that. So we are seeing a big proportion of our advertising now coming from mobile. It's about 14% of our digital ad revenue is coming on mobile devices. And equally important to us, 15 to 20% of our new digital subscriptions every week are coming directly from a mobile device. There's people actually buying a full Financial Times subscription on a mobile device. And we're also trying to shift the balance of what we do from a product management point of view, from an editorial point of view, so it's much more focused on this mobile audience. And it's already big. 30% of our subscriber page views already come on a mobile device, either a tablet or a smartphone. So what we know is actually, our audience are ahead of us, and we cannot run fast enough to keep up with that.
Right. Larry, how about for you at New York Magazine?
Yeah, I think we're a little earlier in terms of our audience usage across our range of properties, in the upper teens up to 25%, depending on which property and which areas of the app. So for us, mobile first is still more of a tool in our back pocket. It's not necessarily a mantra spread throughout the organization yet. But it is something that's changing the conversation. We view it more of we want to answer the question, where are the users now, and how has that changed? Of course, yes, we're seeing the growth in mobile, tablet, and of course the desktop. And our thinking is more, we want a consistency in the product that we deliver across those platforms. And mobile first is a tool, a strategy to help achieve that, and which helps reinforce the brand for us ultimately.
And Bonita, what does it mean for Google? Is Google a mobile-first company at this point?
Absolutely. I think from our perspective, I mean, we're supporting millions of publishers every single day, whether they're small, medium, or large. And when we look at mobile first, we're thinking about 3 areas for our publishers where we can really add value. One is we want to help navigate with the publishers this particular emerging, this technology that's here today. And secondly, we want to help innovation. So we want to help them innovate. And lastly, we want to help them grow. We want them to be profitable. So we believe that healthy publishers means we have a healthy web. So in terms of understanding the technology across all platforms is important to us. Also, the navigate, it is organizational. And so we want to be able to provide the expertise to help organizations within, have mobile champions so that they can get to a mobile first across their entire organization. And in terms of innovation, we're very focused on new innovative ad formats. That's why we had the acquisition, with AdMob. Also across our DoubleClick platform, when we think about having a unified platform, that platform must be built to support multiple devices. So what we've seen in our research as consumers are using multiple devices, 90% of them are doing it this way to achieve a single goal. So they're starting to move, across the devices. So we have to have the measurement. We have to have the platform that's available to the publishers to start in a very seamless way to be able to serve, to be able to accept in terms of ad technology, and also just making sure that we are building demand. And the way that we can build demand is through having innovative ad formats that enhance the user experience.
Mm-hmm. So, subject of our panel is thinking beyond the app, and I think it's really interesting. I mean, the trends that we've seen is that our mobile web usage far exceeds the usage of any of our apps, and I think a lot of publishers are seeing that same trend, whereas a couple years ago it was all about this race to build apps. Rob, your company actually pulled out completely from the App Store.
Yep.
When was that?
So August 2011.
Right.
So we're over a year now into this sort of mini rebellion we've had going on, and it's gone very, very well for us.
What drove that decision?
It was for us about the ability to run the business in the way that we knew was right for us. So there were 2 key things in there. The first was that we were being asked to pay 30% of our subscription revenue to a third party, to Apple, when we'd already invested to build our own billing platform. And that just didn't make sense to us. And secondly, as part of that arrangement, we would end up with an intermediary between us and our customers. And we felt that would be bad for the business for a number of reasons. The relationship that we have with our readers is very strong. It helps us to understand what it is they like about our product and our services. But it also benefits us commercially as well. We're very clear about that. It helps us on the marketing side. It helps drive some of our advertising revenues. And if you take that relationship out of the equation, then our business becomes less valuable. So those were the things that were on our minds, and we felt that the problem was so big that actually we had to find a different way. And that prompted us to look at HTML5, what we could achieve within the browser, and we produced this web application, which I think is just fabulous, and I've always been stunned with what the developers were able to come up with. It's at least as good as anything we've ever done in native, if not a bit better. And the readers love it as well. Our audience on iOS devices has increased by over 70% since we came out of iTunes. Now, mobile is growing, so arguably we would have grown anyway, but we're very sure we haven't lost anything and pretty clear that we've gained.
Now, Larry, your organization's doing both. You're still doing native apps and you're doing mobile web. What are you finding, and what are the big differences between the audiences on those 2 platforms?
First off, kind of in the similar vein, we've learned a couple lessons this year. The first one is with the launch of relaunch of thecut.com at the end of the summer, which is full responsive treatment of the site. The centerpiece of that site is our fashion show coverage and the rich, immersive experience. A year ago, we had launched an app called the Cut app, which was very well received, won some awards, and we're very proud of. Fast forward a year later, with the launch of this new site and taking advantage of what the technologies can now bring to bear through HTML5 and outside of a native app, we compare the two experiences, and certainly our users compare the two experiences, and they're seeing that they're getting almost the same from what we're able now to deliver over the web. And so there's definitely a transition in that case. Now, in other cases, we do have that kernel of folks that want to immerse themselves in the magazine experience. We have that devoted following, and we don't want to take that away from them. Mm-hmm. We still feel for us that there are a few areas where the native app is still delivering slightly more, but we are in the new app, and we'll be releasing this in February, March next year, the new version of the New York Magazine digital edition. We've brought in the web to a much greater degree, and it's a much more integrated experience. And we're doing that to ease the transitions back and forth, because we do think that our users want to go back and forth and flow easily between the two.
Right. And one of the big trends that we see, though, is that with our apps, they get great engagement. I think our iPad app averages more than 20 minutes per session. And you don't see anything nearly like that on desktop or mobile web. Why is that, and does responsive design change that, or?
I think it's partly about format, because on the web app, that's operating entirely in the browser, we see some of the highest engagement figures that we've got. By contrast, the main site, when people view that in the browser, gets much lower engagement figures. So it is about some of these design techniques which allow you to just swipe casually through articles and things that make it a much better reader experience. And that can be achieved in the browser just as well as it can be within an app. There's nothing special about that app wrapper. It's just about great design.
Mm-hmm. I do think it also depends largely on content discovery. How are they finding the content? And there's the app represents a pool of content to dive in and explore, whereas outside of the app, you're using your more traditional, maybe where desktop it was search engine. Now with mobile, it's more the social network is leading you to. But you're diving into that article and seeing what's next on Facebook or Twitter or the links.
Or it's your business.
So it's a different behavior. So you're not going to see the similar patterns on the app. So.
I was going to say it also varies based upon your business objectives. So we're agnostic whether it's an app or whether it's a mobile web. But we do think that the design based upon the business objective is key. So we were very focused on having everyone think about having a mobile optimized site because we did see if you had a mobile optimized site, engagement would increase 85%. So we came out with a tool because we thought it would be easy for all businesses to just take a look. It's howtogomo.com. You can go in, you can test your website, but then you can look at, do you need a responsive design based upon your business need? And that could be an app. And we've built within Google Analytics the opportunity to do end-to-end measurement, so you can see how that app is performing. Or you might see, based upon the business need, that it could be a mobile app, and we support that as well.
So at this point, though, Bonita, what's Google and Google's point of view? You're helping publishers every day make decisions about how to monetize. At this point, would you be advising publishers to build native apps or focus on mobile web?
We would say we're agnostic. It's based upon business needs. It could be content. It could be, you want this immersive experience. We want to make sure that we have the platform, we have the measurement, we're bringing demand. We have the ability to actually bring demand to both of those formats because at the end of the day, you need to monetize. And so that's where we're focused. We're focused on how can we drive demand, how can we bring ad formats that are innovative enough that increases the engagement, which would ultimately increase the CPMs associated with that particular.
Now, Rob, you're outside the App Store now. I mean, what,
Yeah.
if anything, are you sacrificing by making that decision? Is there functionality things you can do within apps, whether it's for users or for advertisers, that you finding you can't do on mobile web?
There's a couple of things that you could point to. If we were producing apps which needed to make use of physical features on the device, like cameras or mics or whatever, that's much easier to achieve through native and often impossible to do through the HTML5. There are, people in the gaming community swear that stuff is easier to do within a native environment. I'm not qualified to comment on that. If you are producing, incredibly complex code, then probably some of the native stuff works better. But, our website is relatively simple and straightforward. We're talking about, it's text, graphics and images. HTML5 can support that stuff with no problem at all. And there's no presentational disadvantage at all. And if you don't believe me, then go and look at the app. It's app.fd.com. You can get straight to it, and it's if you can tell the difference between that and a native app, I'll be impressed, because I can't. The other consideration is your capability as a developer. If I was a startup developer putting a new app out there, I'd go into an app store like a shot, because you don't want to worry about setting up your billing platform and dealing with some of the other bits and pieces which you have to have in order to put together a successful app. So that there are different considerations there. But for a company in our space, actually the world outside the app stores is great. There's no problem with discovery. You can create beautiful experiences for your readers. You can control your business model, your advertising, and it works superbly. And actually, I think it's very important for publishers to really focus on maintaining the browser channel. This is the only way that they have to actually reach customers and readers around the globe directly. And if that kind of closes off, then we'll all find ourselves in a world where we have to go through a third party to reach our marketplaces.
Larry, do you agree with that assessment, or are we going to continue to see apps from you guys?
I think a big part of it is the technology. You mentioned, like, in the gaming space, there are certain features within an app environment that it's going to provide things that are very hard to do. One of the things when HTML5 first launched in the discussion of the canvas and your ability to do animation and replace Flash just with that, well, the performance on that just hasn't delivered on what was the initial hopes. And so you still have to pull back on that. And there are use cases for that. We recently have been having that internal discussion. Again, speaking of that digital edition, we're trying to decide what we do with our crossword puzzle, as many people. There are some great HTML5 versions, but the native ones are just much richer. And we have some other areas of our magazine where we would like some kind of smart, intelligent treatment. The approval matrix, if you are familiar with New York Magazine, it's a great opportunity to have fun with some kind of interactive element. And so there are places where that native capability certainly bear out. But I think it's the technology is certainly catching up. Between responsive design and really understanding HTML5, which is still very much in the early stages for a lot of folks to understand. It's a tremendous amount of capability underneath that hood. The browsers have to catch up in their ability to deliver on that performance as well. But once we see that, then continue spilling over into the...
Right. I want to move to monetization in the time that we have left. There's clearly this huge gap in monetization on mobile. Mary Meeker shared data earlier this year. Mobile, even though it's attracting 10% of time spent, it's probably more than that at this point, only attracts 1% of the advertising revenue. Bonita, you probably have the best purview into this of anyone. What are you seeing in mobile right now, and are you bullish on it from a monetization standpoint?
From our perspective, we're bullish. We don't have to. We've seen all the stats, on user and the usage associated with mobile devices. So we're focused on creating the infrastructure. So we're focused on making sure that it can run through the exchange, and we have. Right now, thousands of publishers that are using the DoubleClick for Publishers, our DFP mobile platform. Also, the capability in the exchange. We do have to focus more on the measurement. We're working with IAB to make sure that we have the right standards. I think sometimes when there is a new technology, It's important to ensure that we have consistent standards for marketers to participate. And as I said earlier, we are focused on having that compelling user experience that's driven through ad innovation. So we can't just take what we've done on the desktop and move it to mobile devices. And a smartphone is very different, than a tablet in terms of the usage. So we are focused on what types of ad formats. And again, that's where we've had the acquisition with AdMob so that we could, again, be prepared for enhancing just the overall profitability and the monetization on mobile.
Speaking of formats, Larry, not only are you guys experimenting with responsive design, you're also doing responsive advertising. And that's something we're working on at Mashable as well. Can you just talk a little bit about what that is and maybe some results you've seen thus far with it?
Yeah. Well, responsive advertising for us is delivering the best ad experience across all the devices. Again, as we said, we envision our users are moving from desktop to tablet to mobile to back and forth, and delivering a consistent experience that delivers both the best of content and the best advertising across those. That's what responsive advertising is for us. Mm-hmm. It's what we're trying to bring back to our advertisers as well, in terms of talking about the monetization and the challenges there. We're seeing the beginning of it. We are seeing advertisers starting to go over and experiment with that. But part of it is the messaging in terms of what our ad sales team does and how they go out with a message now. What we like to talk about is you're buying the experience. You're buying the NY Mag experience across all the devices. You're buying vulture.com or Cut. And the ad campaign spreads across those, and responsive ads allow us to say the ad experience will be optimal in all of those devices. And now they're starting to Ryan, with the Cut, we had great success with campaigns from Chanel, recently Cartier. Before, these were folks that had held back, and now they've seen it, and with great success.
When you say success, though, is that are responsive ads delivering better engagement, click-throughs?
Yeah. Early data showing better performance, absolutely. Which also going back to what I said about the discussion we have on the ad sales side, getting away from the old discussion of IAB unit size and all that, but to really speak about the percentage of screen coverage you get, change that conversation to this is what you're getting across these devices, mm-hmm. and they're willing to go down that road with us.
Right. Now, Rob, your model is a little bit different than others.
Yep.
You have a paywall subscription revenue, but you've actually monetized more successfully on mobile than a lot of other publishers.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I mean, the subscription model really helps a lot, and from a couple of angles. I mean, firstly, we've found that people are very happy to do business on mobile devices. As I mentioned earlier, 15-20% of our new subs each week are coming directly from mobile devices, that's very encouraging because it's not quite at the level of the overall audience on mobile, but it's heading in that direction, and it suggests that we can transfer that subs business neatly over from the desktop to the mobile devices. The challenge is more around advertising, actually, and because we have a lot of insight into the audience through the subs model, through registration model, we can bring that to bear on mobile devices as well, and that helps push the yields up and create a quality advertising experience. But there still is a big challenge there, and this gap that you were talking about is hugely important, and publishers have to figure out how to bridge that gap as rapidly as possible, because that audience is not going to go down. The story on the desktop over the past few years has been of publishers failing to compete with the big players in internet advertising, whether it's Google or whether it's Facebook, and the major networks. And when you look at the results of those players, they're making a fortune from digital advertising. It's growing very quickly, whereas most publishers are just bumping along. Now, unfortunately, with mobile, we're starting off in an even worse position. You look at how the market splits up now, 54% of all mobile advertising revenues in the States go to Google. In number 2 position is Pandora. Number 3 is Facebook. Number 4 is Apple. And you can keep going down. There are no publishers on that list, and it's because, we have not yet really swung our whole focus over onto the mobile marketplace. Now, we think we can't wait for everyone else to catch up, and we've been trying to fix some of the issues around mobile advertising off our own bat. So there are all these challenges around asynchronous tracking and targeting, delivering rich content over what might be a poor connection, so therefore you have to cache stuff on the device and things. The tools to do that just are not there off the shelf right now in many cases, so we're having to solve some of those problems internally. But we're doing it because if we don't, then where are we going to be in 3-4 years' time? We've got to get out ahead of this in the same way that Google have and other players have done.
When are those tools, Bonita, going to make their way to mobile? When is mobile going to have that same functionality that advertisers are used to on the desktop, or is mobile just completely a different animal?
No, the tools are coming. So we've already integrated mobile into our DFP, the double-click for publishers. So that's available in terms of participating in the ad exchange. So we do have, thousands of, as I mentioned, thousands of publishers that are using that particular tool. We do need more measurement. We're working on that particular aspect. And we're looking at across all of our platforms, whether it's Google Wallet or Google Play, so being able to integrate the publishers into Google Play as well as Google Currents, and provide some monetization opportunities within those areas as well.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say for the ad folks in the room? How do you convince advertisers that mobile's a good investment?
I think having been an advertiser, I was in the automotive and I ran advertising for Chrysler. And I think it's the user and this whole multi-device experience. And so for an advertiser, if you know that it takes, 90% are using multiple devices, whether it's, I'm a TV, I have the tablet, then I have my smartphone, and they're used in different ways, but they're achieving one goal, and it might be to purchase your product or service. And I think as we get more information about this multi-device, and then we start to think about mobile. Mobile started with the smartphone, and then it went to the tablet. We're thinking Google Glass, so there's all sorts of things that will become mobile. And so I think what the advertisers, when they start to see this multi-screen, multi-device experience, and we can provide the tracking, they will then, start to flock because they will want to make sure that they're part of the experience every step along the way. And so I think that's what we have to focus on is this multi-device.
And Larry, that's how you're trying to sell your brands now, right? You're buying the brand experience across all these platforms.
And that's it. And that's exactly how the advertisers need to have a mobile strategy that's not there now, or an understanding of how to really leverage this. And we're trying to educate in that way. At the same time, the agencies as well, that might be in the ears, not really understanding exactly how to leverage this. We did a little of this for the Cut launch to show them. They came, to show for responsive ads. Not everyone's coming to you with all the creatives you need for that, and so we took it on ourselves. And did production of several of the ads for them to show them. Mm-hmm. Took the video, made it native HTML5 video instead of their Flash, so we could have an experience across all devices, and showed them the richer experience. And every single time, absolutely thrilled with the results. Mm-hmm. It's an educational process.
Mm-hmm. My last question, we have about a minute left, is what's the biggest myth about mobile advertising that you would like to clear up?
Well, probably that the audience isn't there. The audience absolutely is there, and I think advertisers increasingly, realizing that, and you can deliver effective brand messages on mobile devices. The formats are starting to come through, and the readers are there. This format can be used incredibly effectively for delivering advertising messages.
Mm-hmm. Bonita?
I think everyone thinks that they can be passive. And I think that this is the time to actually accelerate and be active. So if I see one more study on, just the level of activity, I mean, we see 25% of YouTube is now on a mobile device, and that's today. And so we'll go through the holidays, and there will be more of that. So I think, if we could focus on the acceleration and, really the acceptance.
Mm-hmm. Larry, you have the last word.
I think the performance. The one thing that's been surprising to us a little bit has been performance. It's when executed properly, it does very well, much better than expected. So I think that's something to learn from.
Great. Well, we are out of time, so thank you guys so much.
All right. Thank you, Andrew.